Conversations, we have Kathi Ross Nash. People would say that Kathi is the queen of Pilates, a superwoman. She would call herself a mom who wanted to stay home with her kids. Her passion for teaching and her decision to be true to the work has elevated her to international recognition. Our conversation was full of teachable moments. She explained the origins of the red thread, and we laughed about her challenges with technology. It is our ability to adapt that allows us to survive. Enjoy the conversation.
Did I do it?
Good morning. You did.
Good morning. Technically challenged.
No, you totally nailed it. It's just going to get better from here. That is awesome. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for the honor of inviting me and having me. This is just a great platform. And I love to hear what you said about the community, because that's my big thing, you know?
Yes. You're going to see your people start to come on here onto the post. All the people that you follow are just going to come on and just, say how awesome you are and how much of a Wonder Woman you are. Hi, Me Too, and others. So this is good. It really is a great platform. And I think that if we never had this whole quarantine, it would take forever to get in contact with some people to sit down and have these conversations, because we would be so busy with our world and our pace of life that we never actually have this time to stop and connect.
Oh, I agree 100%. I mean, I tend to be very insular, stay in my studio, work type of person. And this has enabled me to be in touch with so many other people from all over the world and different trainings and different backgrounds. And it's really fulfilled. People are like, thank you for class. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm getting out of bed in the morning and functioning because you're here. They're giving to me.
Yes.
They're the ones that are keeping me sane. They're the ones that are keeping me together and going forward. And the fact that the community has come together in such a beautiful way that I don't think that it would have had we all not been in this situation.
Absolutely. That's been a running joke that people don't even talk about contemporary versus classical anymore.
Well, I think that with all of this exposure, those lines have been blurred.
Absolutely.
And I actually have said under oath that I don't believe in contemporary and classical. I believe in Pilates.
Yes.
And as the root comes back, as you look at the work, and, I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about, how Pilates went through these waves,
Yes.
And one of the biggest things I said was, well, now that we have to trying to teach teachers to teach their clients at home where they only have mat, we are seeing why things were broken down like they were.
Yes.
Because people didn't have the equipment, they didn't have the availability, but they were still trying to do Pilates.
Right. Yes, absolutely. My passion for Pilates is making it accessible. And like you said there, I think that this is one of those beautiful things that allow people to realize how accessible Pilates actually is.
Mm-hmm. It also has caused, which I am thrilled, self-responsibility in your own work.
Yes.
One of the most beautiful things that the instructors that are taking classes are saying about, I've been doing Pilates now for myself, and I am stronger than I ever have been, and I have a renewed love for the work.
Yes.
And that is something that, I've always believed in, that the only way for you to be able to share this work and unify with people in this work is to have it in your own body.
Yes.
And to live it. And instructors are doing that again, which is, amazing.
Absolutely. Kathi, can we unpack that phrase, have it in your body?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
What does that mean?
So every individual comes to Pilates with their own path, right? Okay. Your body's different than mine. My body's different than mine. when you do the work, you experience the exercise and
Yes.
you find the nuances in yourself. You find where you're strong, where you're weak, where you're imbalanced. And that's when you have an understanding of the work in your body. And
Mm.
then from that point, you can move forward and
Ah,
hopefully apply the method,
yes.
and until you understand it in your body, it's impossible for you to understand it in somebody else's body.
Right. To be empathetic to someone.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So are we even weak in some exercises? Like, can you say that it's a weakness, or is it just an imbalance because one muscle is working instead of the other? You're
Well,
saying philosophically, can we say that there is a weakness at all?
um, more imbalance would probably be more correct,
Yeah.
because we aren't body parts. We are a
Yes.
whole.
Right, right. Yes.
Even on a cellular level, every cell has the same information.
Mhm.
So we are a whole, and we are pulleys and levers, which is my father was an engineer. So the engineer brain in me just loves
Yes.
Pilates because it makes sense.
Makes sense.
So when I use the term weakness, more correctly, it would be imbalance,
Hmm.
or non-understanding of how to fulfill a movement need.
Yes. Yes. So when I put that in my personal training background mind, I think about muscle recruitment.
Hmm.
So when we're asking a body to do a certain move, it comes down to asking those muscles to activate to make that movement happen. And can we recruit
Correct.
the proper muscles that are required to perform this move? Is that
Correct.
accurate?
It's very simple. Yes, yes,
Yeah. You can say no if
close.
I'm off.
No, 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 close. I'm trying to take it all in. So if you look at I never look at the body as muscles,
Hmm.
you know,
Yes.
I look at the body through alignment.
Ah, okay.
And so when the body is aligned, it's
Hmm.
in balance within its natural imbalance. There's no totally balanced body,
Gotcha.
except for the company.
Yeah.
So
Free plug, check. Yeah.
that was funny.
Yeah.
I made myself laugh,
Yeah.
use myself. So, I look at everything as that building movement, off of the 100.
Yes.
And so every exercise, as it builds off the 100, requires an additional skill.
Yes.
So I look at, does this individual have the skills required
Hmm.
to do this next exercise?
So
And
they
if
have
they
to.
don't,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
no,
So
no,
it's like
if
they
they,
almost have to like earn the right to progress to the next piece.
absolutely,
Yes. Yes.
absolutely. I mean, when I first trained, you were, and my main teacher, my mentor would say, teach the first 7 exercises on the mat.
Okay.
First 7 exercises. They do not pass go, do not collect $200 until those are done as
Mm,
prescribed.
yes. Well
But what
said.
we've lost the method of Pilates
Hmm.
in a sense. People talk the method all the time, but when you say, well, what's the method? They're like, well, this is weak, go here. This, no. The method is building those foundational exercises and
Yes.
then layering off of them, because all the work is those foundational exercises in different
Mm,
orientations in space with
yes.
different constraints, combinations of them, and increased dynamic action.
Yes.
So if you don't have that foundation set, you have nothing.
Yeah, nothing. James Shaw yesterday said something to that effect. He's in London and he took a initial course, just an introductory course, contemporary, or I can't remember the term was that he used. And that whet his appetite for more teacher training, more lessons. He found a classical course and they said exactly what you just said there. And then the years of Pilates that he had before made sense because they introduced it in this system,
Correct.
as opposed to this exercise and then this
Correct.
exercise. And he was wondering in his first course why he had to write down and almost program design every single time he went out, when the classical course that he was taught afterwards showed him, like you said, these foundational exercises that set up this method and the system and the flow.
Right.
Yeah, so that is lost. That
Yeah.
really is lost.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, in today's society, in the way that fitness is set up, we have been taught to look at fitness as reductionistic.
Mm.
Muscles,
Yes.
separate muscles, which they're not separate. I mean, they all blend into each other.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of looking at it, and quite honestly, Joe Pilates never said it was a core workout. He said it was a total body workout.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't when I look at a body, I never look at one little place.
Mm-hmm.
I step back and I do a soft gaze
Yes.
to look at the movement. And I don't correct and I don't build or challenge a body part.
Mm-hmm.
I go exercise to exercise.
Yes. That reminds me of Mary Bowen. And my background is actually in social work. I have my master's degree in counseling. Wow. And one of the things that really fascinated me in my counseling was the Bowen theory of family systems theory.
Mm-hmm.
So it was fascinating for me once I discovered that Mary Bowen actually was a Pilates person as well as a counseling person, a therapy person. That blew my mind, right? But like you're saying about recognizing that exercises and muscles don't move in isolation, like bodybuilders want to say,
right?
It actually is an interrelation of the fascia and the body moving and all those different things. It's the same thing in social work, in counseling, where that Bowen theory was saying that you can't look at the individual, you have to look at the family system. Correct. I am informed by those around me, and I think our muscles are also informed by those around it. So we can't look at the tricep and say this is tricep day. Exactly. And we can't look at our workout that way. So, I'd like to explain to people that, if you don't mind, that there is training someone in the method. Okay. There is a Pilates class. Yes. And there is a Pilates workout. Ooh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So a Pilates, training somebody in the method is literally looking at that body individually, the way that I was originally trained in the 80s, taking that body individually and building that body from 0 to the 100 to the star, whatever level they work. Then there is a Pilates class. Mm-hmm. So a Pilates class, which is what I tend to teach, is a class that is set up where you are still moving through the system, meaning you have Joe's mat or reformer or combination order in mind as you build your workout, as you build the class. So it's a class. It builds from one thing to another. Even if, as I'm doing that, I am building towards something not necessarily on the mat or the reformer, because let's say I'm doing a spine corrector class. Okay, right. The exercises that I do throughout my spine corrector class build to my ultimate exercise at the end of the class, which is like you do on the mat and reformer. And Pilates workout is where you just take a bunch of the exercises and put them together, utilizing the exercises to work the body in individual ways, but not with the system in mind or with the method in mind. That is such a liberating way of saying that, Kathy. The reason why I say liberating is because people, I'm sure guys that are out there watching this, we have been taught and think that, okay, if I'm not doing it this way, I'm not teaching Pilates. Or if I am doing it this way, I'm not in a class format. And when you put it in those boxes, not that it can't flow, but
Of course,
when you give those descriptors to those things, it gives us the freedom to be creative with our knowledge. That is
as we should
beautiful.
be.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We have to be able to, for instance, how am I going to teach the body before me now? Seriously.
Right.
Even if I have a student, I climb all over my students. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I am hands-on. I'm going from every different vantage point. I'm like this. I can't say, okay, stop, get up, move the camera over to here, or let's have a surround camera. I can't
Right.
do that.
Right.
So I can't teach. I either have to pick a specific piece of equipment, like I said,
Yes.
or a certain movement and
Mm-hmm.
just have this one view. So
Right.
because life has made this necessary, I have to use my creativity and
Mm-hmm.
adapt.
Yes.
We all do.
We all do. It makes us better.
Exactly. Adaptability is what makes you survive.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So I'm sure most people have heard of this, Kathy, but can you explain what the red thread
Oh,
is?
I would love to. The
Yes.
red thread is my life's work.
Okay. In a
So,
nutshell, just
in a nutshell.
yes.
So, we were talking about the fact that the method had been lost.
Yes.
Okay. In my studio in New Jersey, in the Jersey jungle, I have a lot of teachers that come. I have regular clients, but I also have a lot of teachers now that over the years have come. And when I was training teachers for Romana's Pilates, they would come and train with me there. And so I had it in my contract that this was a teaching studio,
Hmm.
and my teachers were always allowed to ask me questions while I was teaching
Okay.
for a lot of reasons. One, I wanted to be able to articulate to them my choices,
Hmm.
and I wanted to be culpable for them
Yes.
so that it wasn't, oh, you just went here. Why'd you go here? Well, no, there has to be a specific reason.
Yes.
So over time, I had one young lady who was going through the program, and she was very tactile, very writing oriented, which I am not at
Okay.
all. Like you can't even read my notes, trust me.
Okay.
And even if I try. So I made cards for her, for
Okay.
each of my clients. And I would give her a fresh card every time she'd come and we'd staple them together. And I started noticing the logic of my teaching and that there were certain exercises that would logically be added next. And there would
Yes.
be certain exercises that worked within the constraint of the spinal function.
Okay.
And then I started thinking to myself, how can I make this understood and accessible to the teachers of today? Because they didn't have the background that I had. They didn't have the time that I had, in the method,
Yes.
and the advantage that I had, post certification to go every week that Romana was in town and train with her and spend time with her and, be with her.
Yes.
They didn't have that advantage. So how could I teach the method?
Mm.
So I started putting everything, all my work into chart form.
Okay.
So what exercises would build the 100? What exercises built from the 100 to the roll up? What was the skill missing? Right? So if I'm doing
Right.
add next is what one you would add, the order you would add
Yes.
next.
Yes.
What skill from your roll up was missing for your single leg circle that you needed? And where in the studio would I build that for the individual body? For instance, if I had somebody and their chest was closed,
Hmm.
they were able to get into the 100 position, but when they started rolling up, because that tendency, because I'm allowed to teach those first 7 exercises and build them first,
Right.
I would have to work on opening their chest. So I would take them to barrel, maybe with arm arcs,
Hmm.
to start progressing them, right?
Yes. Yes.
Also, articulation was needed. What else do we have to know when we're doing the roll up? We have to be able to keep our box aligned during articulation. So I would take them to the rollback bar. So
Yeah.
go on down the line. I'm introducing single leg pull bent. Their knee wobbles in and out. I have to create stability. I'll
Yes.
bring them over to the high chair for going up front because it'll stabilize the foot, the knee, and the box.
Right.
So I started putting this in digestible form.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why it's the red thread, well, there's a lot of reasons. One, in many religions, it is the thread that binds us
Yes.
and our fate that brings us together.
Mm-hmm.
And also for Joe Pilates always talked about the blood being curative
Yes.
and coursing through the body.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just thought that it was the perfect
Analogy.
analogy. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, you did a pretty good job.
So it's just the red thread
Brilliant.
is the
Yes.
is the method of Pilates broken down
Yes.
in a digestible form so that people can learn that it is not lists of exercises, but
Yes.
every exercise off of the mat was created to build the mat.
Yes. It's, as once again, just quoting James yesterday, he was saying it's such a smart system. It's scary smart.
Oh, it's
And
crazy. It's
it's
crazy.
crazy. Yes. And I think for men, once they discover how intuitive it is, that's what gets them connected to it. They try it, it makes sense in their body. They understand how it's interconnected and they want more of it
Oh, yeah.
because they realize that they can progress in it.
Yes.
But progressing looks different than saying I did 185 pounds on the bench press today and I'm going to do 195 next week.
Right. So, Martin, did you
Yes.
know that my son never lifted weights in high school?
Oh, really?
He only did Pilates,
I'm sure he's
and
crazy strong.
he was crazy strong. He was an American football player, and he played
Okay.
for University of Chicago um, from freshman year up. He was their running back, and he was one of the leading running backs in New Jersey.
Yes.
And he was only allowed to do, I actually have like photos of him doing the arm springs that Ramona gave him when he was like 8 years old. He's doing these little
Mm,
arm springs. He was never allowed to lift. He was given Herschel Walker's book, The Naval Academy Workout.
yes.
And he did Pilates and yoga his
Wow.
entire high school career. He was so enthusiastic about it, and I had to fight for it. I mean, this is
Mm,
how much I believed in Pilates.
yes.
His coach, when Zach was brought up for the first boy ever to be a freshman, invited for varsity.
Wow. Okay.
So he
Yeah.
played that year, and the coach says, "Okay, Zach, you have to start lifting." And he's like, "My mom won't let me."
Mom said no.
Mom said no. Have you met mom?
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to go have a meeting with him.
Mhm.
So I went and I did an online weightlifting certification so that I would actually be able to have a conversation from his vantage
Intelligently.
point.
Yes. With
Yes.
it. Yes.
And I sat down with the coach and he said, "So Zach doesn't want to lift. He says you won't let him lift." And I go, "No, he's not allowed to lift." And I looked at him, I go, "How do you feel?" And he's like, "Oh, my neck, my back, my this." I go, "You know what? At the time I was 40 something years old. I'm going to say like 46 years old."
Okay.
And I looked at him and I said, "Well," I said, "I'm 46 and I danced with the ballet company for 10 years professionally. I am
Mm,
in one piece. You are a
yes.
mess.
Right.
You might care about winning a football game, but I care about my child and how he's going to be at 40 years old."
Right.
So, and we went back and forth, and I said, "Well, he's the first child that you brought up from a freshman into the varsity." And he said, "Yes." I said, "So obviously what he's doing is correct."
Right.
I said, "I'll make you a deal. If he performs for you next year, we don't have this conversation ever again. If he doesn't do what you expect him to do, we'll revisit." We never had the conversation again.
Wow.
And Zach
There
brought a
you
bunch
go.
of his friends. He had 4 friends that would come. once or twice a week and train Pilates with me with him.
Yes. I mean, just to echo that story, for those of you who hear that, my background's football as well. And
Oh, really?
yeah, so I'm just like, oh yeah, it's like drooling as you start your story. And then when I started to do my apprenticeship, and Chris Robinson was the one who was
Yeah.
teaching us. And he was saying the same thing, like when he went to Ramona initially, coming in at like $1.95, and she's like, stop working out, or like full circle, you're not going to get this work in your body.
Right.
So when he started to teach us, he issued that same challenge to me, and I came in, and for 18 months while I was doing this training certification, I stopped working out completely.
Mm-hmm.
And lost about 5 pounds in terms of muscle mass, but I was stronger. I still play flag football. I was faster. I had better range of motion, injury-free for the last 2 years. Well, still injury-free. And the first few months, I was so miserable as my body getting used to it. And I said to my wife, if I'm not faster when I go on that field, I'm back on those weights. And sure enough, I was like, I played really well, and I felt awesome. And I understand and appreciate the power of Pilates from taking that challenge as it was given to Ramon, to Chris, and then Chris to me, to say, okay, if you're going to get this in your body, you're going to have to step away from the weights until you understand how this works and how your body needs to move, and then go from there. So, and it's true.
But you also have to look at the difference. Working out, as we know it as a society, is not for longevity of the body.
Right.
So if you look at the history of fitness, it comes from gladiators, right?
Yes.
Building themselves so they could survive. They're going to war. I studied martial arts for a long time, and there was this pole called the makawara, and people would kick it and kick it and kick it to develop their shins.
Yes.
Right? And I'm like, that's not such a great idea, because most training techniques are not for longevity.
Right.
They are for, you're a football player, what's it for? So that you can do your job on the field.
Right now, yes.
Right now. Pilates is the one workout that is for your life and meets you at any level and can bring you to any level.
Yes.
I've worked with people taking them out of wheelchairs to top athletes, and all within the Pilates spectrum, because Pilates is meant to enhance the quality of your life.
Right.
And other forms are not. I have all these people like, well, ballerinas are fit. I'm like, hell no. There's nothing healthy about ballet.
Right.
There's nothing healthy about cleaning and jerking 325 pounds.
Right. Yeah.
There's nothing healthy about it.
I agree. I say the same thing about basketball, actually. That jump, turn, stop, start, pivot, like all those movement patterns. Yes, I mean, if you want to go back to hunting and gathering, you need all those things, but
survive.
Lifespan?
Right.
I don't know.
No, but that's not what sports are, and that's what we have to recognize, and we have to understand as beings that want a functional long life.
Yes.
We have to do things that will improve that won't wear out our joints, that won't overbuild a muscle so the muscle is pulling on the connective tissue and creating tendinitis. We have to balance our body so that we can work efficiently and economically with our movement.
Right. That is true optimal health.
Yeah.
Not just aesthetics, not just a beach body.
And it's not like what, when you think of aesthetics, right? I think of a cat moving.
Right.
Cat does not have big, bulky muscles, but they have this fluidity through their movement.
Right.
And that to me is like, you see somebody that can physically move, that to me is very attractive.
Very attractive.
Yeah.
A friend of mine basically described a great body as one that looks great, feels great, and is pain-free.
Hmm. And recovers.
And recovers well. Yeah. Yeah. It needs to be able to bounce back.
Yep.
Yeah. And
That's
I like
health.
to,
You'll
yeah.
get
Yeah.
sick. You'll get
Yes.
sick, but you got to
Yeah.
bounce back.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. That's a new standard for wellness. And it's so counterculture to every advertisement that plagues us, right? Like, yeah, I can go on about the messages that women are spent that are
Uh,
told in the media and how frustrating that is to
well,
compete against that.
I never allow any of my photos to be photoshopped.
I read something about that. That don't touch me.
Don't
Is that
touch me. My daughter has her master's
okay?
in psychology, and she's getting her doctorate.
Okay.
And she focuses a lot on trauma, addiction, and eating disorders.
Okay.
And I myself am a recovering eating disorder person,
Mm,
recovery, many, many years.
yeah.
It's like, I don't even know who that person was, but I lived through it.
Yes.
And I am 56 years old. And I believe that we should be the best that we could be
Yes.
health wise.
Yes.
And that these images that, I've been at photo shoots and I've seen photos of people being taken. And
Hmm.
then I see the photo out there and I'm like, they
Like,
took
well,
30 pounds off of you,
mm,
and
yes.
you don't, it's not good for you. Because you know what? Like, you touch me up, I can deal with my wrinkles. I can deal with my skin. I can deal with my aging, whatever. If I can't feel it, that's a whole different story. But if you
Yes.
touch me up, it's unobtainable.
Right.
And it's telling me I'm not good enough.
I'm not good enough, but I'm still going to chase after this impossible image.
No. So don't
Yes.
touch me. Don't
Right.
ever. And I have it. You can ask anybody. You take
Hmm.
a picture of me. I'm like, you are not allowed to Photoshop me.
Good
All
for
the
you.
pictures in my books are not, they're color corrected, a
Yeah.
little more light
Yeah.
here, but
Yes.
they are
Yes.
not, nothing is Photoshopped.
Good for you. That is amazing because I think that even as a fitness professional, before and after pictures nauseate me
Oh, totally.
because people do before and after picture like, look how awesome I look now, look how amazing, look how ugly I looked before, and then life happens, and then you
Exactly.
return to that before picture status and you hate yourself because of all the negative images and messages you told yourself about that before person. Can't stand that. That is so hazardous for our health.
It really is. It really is. I mean, and that's not what this work is about.
Right.
This work is about balance. And when I say balance, I don't just mean body balance, because we're not separate.
Right. Yeah.
Our mind, I mean, I can't tell you how many clients they come and I'd start training them and they disappear. And I'd be like, wow, what'd I do? And like a year later, they'd come back, they go, so I was working with you for about 2 months and I realized I needed to get a divorce from my husband. So I filed for divorce. Here
Mm-hmm.
I am. I'm ready to go. I had one client, every time she went back over the barrel, she would start crying because she was
Yes.
overwhelmed, the release
Yes.
here, what
Mm-hmm.
she was holding for the death of her mother. I mean, you
Yeah.
see this, like when my dad passed away suddenly 15 years ago, I would leave my sessions with Ramana and
Mm-hmm.
I'd pull my car over and just cry
Yes.
because we're not separate. We're not separate. We are one, we're
Mm-hmm.
just, you can't separate the two.
You can't. You can't. And in the same way, we can't isolate a muscle within the body, and you have to look at it. It's the exact same thing: spirit, soul, and body.
Which is
That
probably what attracted you the way you are, your training to this work.
Yes, absolutely. And that just reminded me of a story of a lady that I was training who was trying to get pregnant for many years, her and her husband. And you know how the story goes. They started doing Pilates and just started to feel good and confident. And one day she's like, I'm pregnant. And you could just see how, as you draw that line through their journey,
Yes.
how that just allows the body to relax and allows things to
Yes.
happen, right? And it's
Well,
beautiful.
it opens up what Pilates does, it creates space, right?
Yes, yes,
Both physically and mentally, it creates
yes.
space. So you're not tightening, you know, it's not this constipated, it's this open. You're opening the joints, which
Mm,
allows circulation into areas that might not get the circulation because of
yes,
habitual movement, because of emotional tension,
yes,
because of it de-stresses. I mean, even if you look at the way breathing, that we breathe through the nose in Pilates, it stimulates the vagal nerve.
yes.
That is, what is it, the ninth nerve center of the brain? That creates a calming effect.
Yes.
And now, you know, Joe had all those eye exercises, and I still teach, you know, all those eye exercises. Do you know
Hmm.
that there is now a new, it's not new, but I'm sure you know because you're a therapist, there's a whole therapy now based on eye movements where like you look hand to
Yes.
hand, right?
Yes.
And it is to de-stress the
Right.
body.
Right. And these are for children for learning too, because when
Yes,
they can use those tactics to open up different parts of their brain to access
yes.
that focus to be able to learn it. Oh yeah, that's like it's a fascinating how ahead of his time Pilates was.
I mean, when you think about when when you think about all the cycles of everything through life and that, you know, we've come to, and that's an amazing thing about what's happening right now in our community, this
Yes.
unity that we're seeing that we've never experienced before, this brilliant
Right.
understanding in unity. It's really his time, like right
Yes.
now. You know,
Yes.
disease was bore it,
Hmm.
and disease is keeping it alive.
And Kathy, what you're saying about creating space, like I love using that phraseology. In a time when I was going through my divorce and times when I was challenged in my life in so many different ways, that notion of creating space helped me because it allows you to distance yourself from distractions and find that work within. And in the
Yes,
same way, Pilates does that. And that is
yes,
really a saving grace for me as well, because it does create that space within the distractions within your body and your life
right.
and to find that work within you. And then from there, everything comes out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. That's good. This is therapy time. Thank you. This is,
Pilates is therapy. I
it
mean,
is. It is.
you
I
know.
have a ton of people here on these comment sections. I do want to acknowledge
Sure.
everyone. Let me just see here, because as you're
I saw
waxing
Keika.
philosophical as you're talking, yes,
That
and
happy
people,
Pilates monkey, I love the name. Oh,
she's
Pilates saved my
awesome.
life. You know, it
Mm.
saved my life too. Do you know I have ankylosing spondylitis?
No, I have a
Yeah.
client that has that. That is so challenging to
Oh,
work
yeah.
with.
My
Yeah.
daughter, my apparently I've had it all my life, but it went undiagnosed or
Mm.
misdiagnosed. And my daughter also has it from juvenile. And if it wasn't for Pilates, I would be in a wheelchair. I
Yes.
mean, I really would. No, so people have thought that Pilates, classical Pilates, was restrictive. And
Mm.
I think that is because for a while with the certifications, they were like bump, 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 bump. But if
Yes.
you ever watched one of those founding teachers teach
Hmm.
a lesson, a real lesson, listen, Ramana used to have me do things like snake and twist on the ladder barrel.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She used to have me I would do a shoulder stand and do the high series with my arms balancing in a shoulder stand. Like it is, as long as you are within connecting back to those exercises on the mat,
Yes. Yes.
it is actually not. I think that confusion was that because there's a difference between a modification and a breakdown,
Okay.
a modification changes the purpose of an exercise.
Right.
A breakdown takes each individual component of the skills needed to create an exercise.
Yes.
So there started being a schism where things were becoming modifications, not breaking down the work. And if
Okay.
you modify, you're not going to build because you've lost the purpose.
Lost the purpose.
And
Makes
every
sense.
exercise has a purpose.
Right.
So if you lose the purpose, then you lose the work. And so I
Hmm.
think that it was very, very strict in a way at that time because it had moved so far away from
Yes.
Joe's mat that people were like, well, we've got to come back to this. And I also
Yes.
think that marketing
Hmm.
and to be able to differentiate themselves.
Yes.
And I think that people look for sometimes something to hold on to.
Something to hold on. I agree. I agree. I mean, I've a guest on here said the same thing about having basic Pilates, intermediate Pilates, and advanced Pilates. Like there was never that
No,
differentiation.
no, no. My first lesson with Ramana, I did long spinal, what's what's now known as long spinal massage, but I knew it as long
Yes.
spinal control on the Cadillac with leg springs because it was what
Right.
my body
What you could do, and
could.
you could find the connection, and she could challenge you there.
Right. And it made me behave
Right.
because I was like all over the place. I was so hypermobile. She was like, stay, control, control,
Right.
control,
Yes.
stay in your box, stay in your box. Now
Hmm.
I know
Hmm.
what, years later I go, this is why we went to the Cadillac because Kathy was not staying in her box.
Mm.
So, but yeah, that was part of my first lesson. And it was funny because I was doing Pilates forever. And then I decided to get certified after I had my son and lawsuits had all started up. So I went in and I'm like, what's this basic, intermediate, and advanced order? And God bless Tone and Michael because they had to teach it to me. And I was like, it
I don't
doesn't
get it.
make sense. It doesn't make
Yes.
sense. I mean, the foundation does.
Hmm. Of
I
course.
don't have a basic intermediate. I have a foundation, a
Yes.
foundational, and the
Yes.
foundational, those 7 exercises in all orientations and space. Then I
Hmm.
have a core level, and the core level is the two-way stretch where you add rotation, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
then I have my advanced level, which
Right.
is bells and whistles. The
And
core
it's
is
integrating everything.
exactly, the core is what
Yes.
the average normal person does
Yes.
or
Right.
strives for. So
Yes.
I went in and I'm like, these make no sense to me whatsoever.
Hmm.
And, I had to learn them and they kept changing.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, I'm like, wait, mermaid's gone? What happened to the mermaid? They didn't like her?
Where'd it go? Where'd she
Where'd it
go?
go?
Yeah.
Where'd she go?
Yes. Yeah, it makes sense. Like I could totally see that because if people start to label it and package it
Right,
like P90X, you're packaging exercise together so that you can sell it.
right. And
Yes.
everybody's looking for their thing.
Their angle on it.
Yeah.
Yes. But that if you want to talk about business for a second,
Sure.
how do we communicate the work in a way that it stays intact without getting so caught up in labeling it and packaging it and all these different things? Like, how do we communicate it in a
You
way that
teach
it
it.
stays?
You
Yeah.
just keep teaching it. Here's the reality. Do you know how much in my life I've spent on advertising?
Yeah. I can't imagine.
$100
Yes.
because my brother asked me to split an ad with him in a newspaper when he had his karate school. And that was in 1992.
Wow.
Word of mouth.
Yes.
Do the work. Basically,
Yes.
Martin, I am a stay-at-home mom
Hmm.
who taught Pilates out of her house
Yes.
with and raised 2 kids.
Yes.
But I was true to the work.
Right. You are a true leader, Kathi, at the same time because you live it.
I don't know of myself as a leader. I
Hmm.
just feel that I should be culpable. If I'm going to preach something, I have to believe in it.
Yes.
I have to believe in it
Hmm.
because, like with my son, I put his life, his welfare on the line with my
Yes.
belief in this work.
Right.
And every time a client steps in, every time a student comes to train with me,
Mhm.
I am responsible for them,
Absolutely.
you know? So if I'm
Yeah.
not speaking my truth, then I shouldn't be doing it.
Exactly. So well said. Yeah. That is good word, as Ray sees. No, that's exactly it. And I think when Brooke Seiler was on, and I think a few other people echoed this as well, simply saying that Pilates found them. It's not like they said, I'm going to Pilates just looks like a good career path for me, and it looks pretty easy, and I can just stand there and give some verbal cues, and I'm going to make a living off of this.
I hated Pilates.
Oh, really?
I did.
Okay.
Everybody says, like, what? No, I
What?
really did, Mark. I was a dancer.
Okay.
I was told to go.
Hmm.
I did not want to go.
Hmm.
You know, I was not a skinny dancer. I struggled with my weight. I was struggling with an eating disorder at that time.
Hmm.
I was hypermobile. And, you know, Ramana made me do everything I didn't want to do. And she
Yes.
made me behave. And I hated it. And the first day she gave me these dittoed sheets. They were purple. They smelled like that ink. And
Yes.
she checked off, do this every day, this every day, this every day. And I was like, ugh. But I did it.
Right.
And when I didn't do it, I was not on my leg
Hmm.
dancing. And when I did it, I was on my leg. So I'm like, oh, this has something to
Okay.
do with it. I have to do it.
Right.
So I did. And, you know, I never wanted to be a teacher. I never ever thought about being a teacher.
Hmm.
You know, I was teaching dance and one of my students hurt her back. And I had one of those little performers at home with a chair and blah, blah, blah. And I said to her, you know what? Come to my house. I'm going to teach you something to help you because they told her she'd never dance again, let alone walk without pain. And we had
Wow.
her back she was back up on stage in 4 months. So,
Yes.
and that, it was kind of like word of mouth. Somebody's like, oh, you know, I did this
Hmm.
with Kathi. And so it started, you know, I had taught a mat class here, a mat class there, that
Yes.
sort of thing.
Right.
But
Right. Right.
I never thought of it as making a career out of it.
Hmm.
And I just followed my gut, you
Yeah.
know.
Right. That's the formula in anything.
Yep.
Doesn't have to be
There's no
Pilates.
magic anything.
There's
There's
no
no magic
magic.
anything. You just got to
No.
love it.
Right.
Truly love it.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. So it's not that Pilates, like, Pilates didn't find you. It's like Pilates ambushed you.
It did.
Yes.
It took me over.
It took you over.
And then,
Yes.
you know, when I was in such a better headspace, when I went back for the certification, um, that's when by that point, I was in love with it because I'd been
Yes.
working on my own and
Hmm.
going for lessons periodically, but
Right.
working a lot on my own and being self-reliant and responsible. And that's where I came up with the up against the wall workout because, you
Okay.
know, Romana would
Yes.
work with me and I go, how can I make that happen? And, you know,
Hmm.
um, being responsible for myself.
Yes. Yes. There's a gentleman in the social work world that I spoke to, and he is who I consider a guru, like when it comes to youth and social work and all these different things. And I asked him one time, how did you become like the guru, like the person in this corner of social work? He goes, I really wouldn't consider myself a guru. I've just been doing this for a really, really long time.
Exactly.
And I think, Kathi, what you're saying, not to say that you're old, not to
So
say
I
you've been
am.
doing this forever, but you've been living this out for so long that
Yes.
is the word of mouth. That is a reputation that comes from being consistent with what you do and trying to get better and taking the little that you know and handing that off to someone else. That
You
is
know,
so
there's
key.
there's there's one thing that I disagree with the generation that came before me.
Okay.
Many of them would say, give to your teachers, but always keep a little something for yourself.
Really?
And
To
I
have
don't
that upper
believe,
hand sort of thing?
right, yeah, so that they have to keep coming back. And I don't believe that.
Mm.
I believe that I will truly be a successful teacher when my students surpass me.
Yes.
And I will give them every drop of what I have
Mhm.
so that the next generation can be stronger than this generation. And that
Yes.
to me is my job as a teacher.
That is not only your job, but your legacy, really. You've done an amazing job of that, Kathy.
Thank you.
You really, really have. And would you believe that we've talked for 55 minutes straight?
No way. Oh my God. You were right. It was easy.
Totally was easy.
It was like
Guys,
self-service.
I have been talking Kathy off the ledge for like a week and a half. I'm so nervous. I don't know if I can do this. I'm like, you'll be a pro. You'll be
I'm like, I can
excellent.
teach anywhere. Talk like, I'm like, oh.
I'm like, you sound like all of your students when you say, okay, teach me now. And they're like, yes. There's two questions that came up, and we have a couple minutes. I want to just see if we can hit these quickly. A machine and an apparatus. I guess just explain the difference between a machine and an apparatus.
Okay, so Ramana did not like to use the word machine because a machine indicated that it did the work for you. A machine does the work
Yes.
for you. An apparatus does not. We are the engine on the apparatus. We are the machine.
Yes. Yes. Well said. All right. Thank you, everyone who's been on here.
Thank you.
So supportive, and please check out the website, and I'll repost this. There's not like there's anything to edit because all of it was golden, but I will put that up. And Kathy, thank you so much for your time.
Martin,
Honestly.
thank you so much for having me, and everybody who came, thank you so much for supporting our work and what we're doing. We are going to make this world healthy.
Absolutely. All right. I'm going to sign you off here. I'll say my
Cheers.
thank yous and goodbyes, everyone. Thanks
Bye-bye.
again.
Thanks, Martin.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Core Conversations. This organic platform has been made possible by amazing people like yourself. So if you're a Pilates instructor or a movement specialist of some kind and you want to be a guest, please message me. If you're in some other field and the messages just resonate with you, message me. I'd love to have you on. All of our messages connect, and for some reason, they all help us in this battle. We're all in this game together, so I'd love to hear from you. Let your words be life to someone else. Check out our website, personalvictory.ca. Click the Core Conversations page to see who our upcoming guests are, and I will see you next time on Core Conversations.